Hello and welcome to Your Broken Galaxy. I am Broken. Today I'm doing the 6th fight of round 1 for my 128 Star Wars character versus tournament. It is a comedy tournament in case this is the first one you've seen. And today it's going to be Boba Fett versus big old tall head Ki-Adi-Mundi. So, Boba Fett finds himself at 13 years old on Megiddo and fighting among the clones. He spent a little bit of time wandering the galaxy after his dad died, but he figures that learning how to fight with the clones should help his training quite a bit. All of a sudden, the clone commander next to him says, "Boba, I got a special order for you. Execute Order 66. And Boba's like, "I have no idea what that is." And the clone points at Ki-Adi-Mundi and says, "Kill the Jedi." And Boba's like, "Oh boy, I've been waiting for this." So he goes walking towards him, and in his ill-fitting, repainted Jango Fett armor, he shoots the ground near the Jedi's feet. The Jedi turns, and all of the clones look at Boba and raise their guns. Then the commander's like, "It's okay, boys. Boba's been given Order 66. And they're all like, "Oh, okay, cool." Then they point their guns at Ki-Adi and wait. And Tallhead is like, "What's the meaning of this?" And Boba's like, "Your time has come, Jedi." And he takes a shot at him. The Jedi deflects the bolt back towards Boba, but his reflexes are good enough, and he's able to dodge. Then he takes another shot at the Jedi's foot, and Ki-Adi blocks it and is like, "Why are you shooting at my foot?" Then Boba aims at his chest and foot again and shoots twice, and Key's flinging his lightsaber back and forth like a crazy person, trying to get the shots that are aimed at the different parts of his body. He charges in towards Boba and pushes him using the Force. Boba flies back, but he hits his jetpack and ends up landing on his feet without any damage. He takes another shot at Ki-Adi's foot, and Ki-Adi pushes him again. But Boba, like before, just uses his jetpack to land safely and says, "That's not going to work on me, old man." Ki is like, "Okay, fine, you little brat," and he runs in, but as he gets close, Boba uses his flamethrower, engulfing him in flames, and he's like, "Oh gosh, it's horrible." Then he rips off his shirt, exposing his skin to the freezing temperatures, and Boba's like, "You look weird shirtless, old man," and Ki's beard is like mostly burned off, and there's a little bit of smoke rising from where it used to be, and all the clones start snickering at him. So Mundi is like, "Boy, I'll teach you some respect." And he walks up and force throws some huge piece of equipment at Boba. But Boba dodges, and Key starts throwing all sorts of these things that are basically the size of a man at Boba. And Boba shoots back 2 shots really quick, flying one at Ki-Adi's face, and he blocks it, but the second one at his foot, and Key's just not able to get there with his blade, and it burns a hole through his leather boots and into his skin. He falls to the ground in pain, screaming, "I'll kill you, child." Boba laughs and says, "You will try." And the clones are like super impressed, and they're like nodding their heads in approval, right? And Ki-Adi throws dozens of small little things, little pieces of debris at Boba, but rather than jumping away, he just stands there like a boss and allows the things to just bounce off of his armor. "Ah, this is infuriating," Mundi says. Boba takes another shot at his leg and simultaneously uses his whipcord to shoot at Key's head and wraps it around that knob on the top of his head. Boba pulls it tight, and Key's like, "Oh my freaking goodness, stop!" And Boba just starts laughing, pulls it down, and the cord smashes Key's face right into the ground. "That is enough," he says, severing the cord with his lightsaber. "It is time to die, clone." He extends his hand at Boba and he can start to feel his throat tighten. He grabs at his neck with one hand, and Ki pulls Boba's gun out of his hand with a force and tosses it aside. Boba reaches towards his target finder on his helmet with one hand, and with the other still around his throat. He pushes a button on his helmet, and then he stretches his hand across and pushes a button on his gauntlet. Suddenly his rocket shoots up and then turns and flies towards Ki-Adi-Mundi. He dives out of the way, but the rocket explodes, again engulfing half of his body in flames. breaking bones in his arms and legs and flinging him into a wall, which breaks a leg on the other side of his body. Boba stands up and looks at the hairless, charred, and broken man. Ki extends his one good arm to pull his lightsaber to himself, but Boba shoots his outstretched hand with his wrist blaster before the saber gets to him. Ki withdraws his hand, and then the saber, still in mid-flight from being force-pulled, strikes him right in the face. Boba looks at him and says, "You were careless with your men's lives. You didn't see them as anything more than clones. You're the heart of what's wrong with the Jedi and the Republic." Ki, who can do nothing to defend himself, says, "Mace Windu will come for you, you little punk." Boba grits his teeth and says, "Not if I come for him first." And then the commander's like, "Oh yeah, Boba, after we got Order 66, Palpatine, he told us that Windu attacked him and ended up dying himself." And Boba's like, "Oh, well, then I guess that kind of settles that." He looks at Ki-Adi-Mundi and says, "Since my father was avenged, I don't really have any quarrel with the Jedi anymore. Have a nice day, Master." And he starts to walk away. After about 5 seconds, he hears dozens of blaster bolts and turns around to see the commander just unloading bolt after bolt into Ki-Adi-Mundi's body. Boba shakes his head and walks away. So that is my video for today. Boba Fett, the clear winner against Ki-Adi-Mundi, and Boba will move on to round 2, but since this is such a massive tournament that has 64 fights in round 1, it'll be probably at least half a year until we see Boba again. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to vote on who wins these fights, then the way to do that is by signing up for my Patreon. I'm going to be putting them out in batches of 8, and so I've gotten the first 6 fights done. This is fight 6. I have 2 more where I chose the winners, but then for fights that would be 9 through 16, everyone who signed up for Patreon is going to vote, and whoever wins the vote wins the fight. I'll still try and write it in a funny way, but as long as I have patrons that are there to vote, I'm going to let you guys decide who wins, not me. I really, really hope that Rey doesn't win. That would make me disappointed in a lot of ways. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and all that garbage.